Virginia City, Nevada. October 28, 2016. Researcher Michelle LeBaron and a group of colleagues are investigating reports of a shadow-like entity at a historic saloon called the Washoe Club.
She and another woman ventured into one particular room, and between her and her friend, this large shadow loomed up. She described it as about 6'5", 6'6" in height, but again, very, very dark in nature, so there was no detail. At one point, she thought it had completely engulfed her friend, and they ended up screaming and running out of the room. Now, this woman, a few minutes later, after they collected themselves, walked back over to the hall, and there stood again this very tall, dark shadow. But it started doing something very unusual. There was this pulsating energy that was emanating forth from it, like a whoop, 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 and she could hear it as well as feel it. In many cases, people feel a certain energy projecting out from these beings. And in this particular woman's case, it was this pulsating type energy. With other people, it may be more constant. So people are experiencing different types of energy from these beings, but with each of them, energy nonetheless.
I have interviewed people who have encountered shadow beings and they've heard what sounded like electricity buzzing. And the sound would disappear when the shadow people left the room.
There was another woman I interviewed who saw a flash of light out in her hallway, and all of a sudden this shadow man ran into her room, jumped on top of her, and pressed her down into the bed. And the shadow man jumped back off, ran back out into the hallway, and she saw another flash of light. The next morning when she woke up, she noticed that all the electronics in that room had been absolutely fried, and she had to call the fire department for them to come and inspect everything.
In addition to hearing and feeling surges of energy, witnesses often report another curious detail about the shadow people: the appearance of glowing eyes.
A lot of the shadow people have no facial features whatsoever, just blackness. But some do have glowing eyes, and in particular, it's the one with the red glowing eyes that appear to be the most malevolent.
When it comes to shadow beings with eyes, especially blazing red eyes, people also experience a fear that is deeper than just, there's an entity in my room. And they feel that these entities are up to nefarious means.
So many reports of shadow encounters are associated with pulsating energy, glowing eyes, and electronic disturbances that researchers wonder if some shadow entities might actually be misunderstood technology.
It's often discussed that powerful alien technology can influence human electronics and technology. This is definitely something that is reported with the shadow people experiences.
There's also an interesting idea in which these extraterrestrials may be using some sort of cloaking device to hide themselves from our view. But since they may not quite understand the physiology of our eyes, it comes off more of like a shadow. So what we may be seeing is an imperfect type of alien technology.
I've interviewed two different people who have described to me what sounds like it could be some sort of cloaking technology. One person in particular said that he saw a cloak open and saw beyond the disguise, and what he saw, he said, was reptilian scales. I spoke with someone else who saw something similar, but described the skin as more like slick, like a frog's, but gray.
Could it be that we're not talking about shadow people, but some type of a technology that appeared like a shadow? And it may be, sometime a technology did not work. It would reveal that person underneath the cloak or underneath the device, and so they would be seen for maybe a fraction of a second.